Other than that, I'm ready.
And I'm going to run down and get a Red Bull once I get started here. Count us down in three, two, one. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, owner broker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb is also a pilot. Barb Schlinker and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have got to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday. If you can't listen to the entire show, it is always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or just go ahead and search for Barb. You'll find her on all the popular podcast platforms like iHeartRadio. Every week, Your Real Estate Voice covers great information about the housing market and one of the largest assets, the home. Barb, what are we covering today?
Well, Richard, the market's gotten a bit competitive, so that's going to be my first topic. Why is it competitive? It's still a beautiful place to live. There's an awful lot of people that want to buy homes, but we're running into issues with the rates still being high, if not higher. And, so that creates an affordability problem for a lot of buyers. And, there's just a lot more competition. So it's a supply and demand problem in general. And I think we have more supply and a little bit less demand. But I will tell you, my home sellers that put their homes on the market and price realistically, they sell very quickly. You don't have to wait the average 90 days. So we'll talk about that. And then the next topic's a little bit controversial: how to change real estate agents when the sale is not working. Now, a lot of people feel like they are stuck in their contract, but not if the agent is not performing according to what they promised. So we'll kind of deep dive into what would make people make that change and how to do it, as well as why not to do it. Like I had somebody last weekend that was wanting to make a change, and I said, no, you're fine. Stick with your current agent. Just do this, this, and this. So he was shocked I said that, but it was a financial thing, and I thought he could do better. And they did pretty good on the marketing. It was just a pricing problem. And I think sometimes when you're too close to the problem, you don't really have that bird's eye view to see what's going on. The third topic is, what are the typical closing costs when you sell a house? So we're kind of in a dilemma right now, because if you look back from like basically 2018 through halfway through 2022, the market was just exponentially increasing. We probably net now increased about 40% in home values. Of course, it was not sustainable. And the moment the Fed stepped on the gas with interest rates, the buyers stopped. They couldn't afford the payments anymore. So it completely changed the market. And the problem is, since that time, the prices have actually corrected down very slowly. But if you bought in 2023 and you're trying to sell in 2026, you may not have as much equity as you think. Now, I know most sellers, they want the most money. I get it. But I wish that would dictate it. I wish you could just pick a price and put it on the market and get that number. But it's the market that decides. It's the market that looks at what the competition is. It's the buyers out there who are very well educated about this market now. And then the last topic, one of my favorite ones, because I do this every week: how to price a home to sell in this market. And as always, I love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
So, Barb, with the rates being as high as they are, there are fewer buyers that can afford a home these days. How do you sell? I don't like any of that. Let's do it again. Barb, with the rates being as high as they are, there are fewer buyers that can afford a home. How do you sell a home with fewer buyers to choose from?
Well, it's all about pricing. I have had really ugly homes sell very quickly with a bidding more. And even I was shocked at how much they sold for. So it's all about interest rates. Right now, the interest rates are up. That's something the consumer cannot control, right? So the only thing they can do is maybe have some cash available or negotiate for some cash available to buy their interest rate down. But at this point, right now, it's the 30-year conventional loan is at 6.54%. The government loans are hovering at about 6.1 to 6.2, depending on the day. So what does that mean for a buyer? If you actually scroll out and take a look at what the rates were back in the 60s and 70s when people thought the rates were low, at that time, 7% was normal. So we're below that. However, in the past 5 or 6 years, they got to see this 2 and 3% mortgage thing that was just an absolute spectacular gift to a buyer. It was like free money, and it made housing more affordable. And those rates are just not here anymore, and they're not coming back. The other data that's very interesting is what's going on. I just picked one county. I could do all of them, but I think the story is going to be the same all up and down the Front Range. The prices are flat, if not slightly decreasing over time. Now, this should be the peak selling season. This should be when prices are the highest, when the sales are the highest, and the inventory is the highest. But we're not really seeing that. We're just seeing this kind of flatness in the market. According to two sources of data, the average days on market are pretty close to 3 months. But what I'm finding, Richard, is a lot of the buyers and sellers, they don't want to wait 3 months. 3 months looks bad. If you're on the market for 3 months, people think there's something wrong with the house. Now, it's usually not the house. Typically, a buyer gets a contract, they bail out on the house, it comes off the market during that time. Zillow and Realtor.com show all that data, and it makes the house look bad, but it's actually the buyer that probably made the decision not to move forward with the contract. So that could extend days on market, or overpricing, which is the kiss of netting less money. Overpricing your home is also a huge mistake. Number of sales have been relatively flat as well, and the inventory is leaning towards climbing overall. Everything's very seasonal, so fewer homes go on the market in the winter versus the summer. And of course, higher mortgage rates really hurt affordability for the average buyer. Now, builders seem to always figure it out no matter what's going on in the market. So they're offering some amazing incentives for the buyers to buy their houses. And they price it into their home price, but they will build in money to buy down the interest rate, to give you this upgrade, that upgrade, fenced yard, landscaping done. It's a move-in turnkey scenario with a low rate. So they've figured it out. The key to resale sellers is they have to find a way to duplicate it or price it, what I call very, very realistically, to get it sold. And just so you know, every once in a while, because we have a lot of military buying in this market, and we have had for years because there's 5 military bases, there are people that are willing to let a buyer assume their low interest VA loan. So that's VA and FHA, I think, are the only ones that can be assumable. And VA, some of those VA assumable loans, the rates are crazy low. I had 2.25, 2.5, 3.0. If you actually calculate the math from the time that you assume that loan and compare it to what the current rates are, which are more than double that, over the life of the loan, the buyer will save about $500,000 in interest. That is such a gift. It's like a backflip deal. I mean, if you see a VA deal and you have the difference to bring in down payment that has a low rate like that, and you like the home, don't let it go. I love making fun of this agent because he did the dumbest thing I've ever seen. He does have a higher level degree. And so I call him Mr. DUMB, because basically he secured a contract with one of my listings that has a 2.5% VA assumable loan with only 26 years left. So if you went and financed that property right now at the current interest rates, your payment would be double. And then when we get to the inspection phase, he blew up the contract over $500 of cosmetic repairs. We're talking clean and service the furnace and tighten up a little handrail or something. I'm like, what? You let this contract go? I would have, if I was that buyer agent, I would have stroked a check for $500. I mean, don't let a 2.5 interest rate go, because you're never going to see that again in our lifetimes. So guess what Barb did? Remember, Barb has the buyers. I told my buyer agent about it. And next thing I know, boom, I've got a competing contract. Now, PhD and DUMB has to compete with another buyer to go back into contract with that buyer. Lucky for him, the seller was very gracious to him and let his buyer back in contract. But I, I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. Let's see. Do you want to, not have $500 of repairs, or do you want to have 500,000 gift and interest savings? Which sounds better to you, Richard?
I'll tell you what, it sounds like to me, I'm sorry, you caught me here. Repeat the question if you would. Hold on a second, because I'll tell you what happened was right about the time you started to ask the question, I had just seen something that came across my phone, and it's President Trump talking about the birthright citizenship. So he just posted on Truth. He said, "I would like to congratulate President Xi and the great country of China on their massive birthright citizenship win." President Donald Trump, because he's saying that, thank you, Supreme Court. You just gave a big win to China on this birthright citizenship thing. Okay, now I got that out of my system. What was the question? Give it to me again.
All right, so I stopped the clock for a second. So the scenario was this buyer's agent, who's a lawyer, okay? He had to disclose to me he's a lawyer, secured a contract for a VA assumption. The loan on the assumption only has 26 years yet left, and it's 2.5% fixed interest rate. If you were to go out and get a loan on that same loan amount at the current rates, your payment would be double, more than double what it is right now.
Wow.
And he blew up the deal over $500 of Mickey Mouse repairs. He put his buyer out of contract thinking, well, when your seller's more reasonable with giving us even more concessions, we'll consider getting back in. So guess what Barb did? She went out and found another buyer. Now he's up against competition, and his veteran buyer can't get the house, or may not get the house because this agent thinks he's a negotiating legend in his own brain. And to me, he has a PhD in DUMB.
What you see is what you get when you hire Barb Schlinker, your home sold guaranteed realty. And I'm being absolutely honest here. Who in their right mind would blow up a deal with those terms over $500 in little cosmetic, maintenance? That's crazy. But it does, Barb, prove one thing that I learned when I was a trial attorney. That is, well-intended lawyers, and many who are not well-intended, can blow up all kinds of deals if they start fighting over this and this and this, and they don't see the big picture. The benefit of you, Barb, is you always see the big picture, and fiduciary relationship, big picture, you're looking out for your client.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, his buyer got the house back, but he was this close. I had a competing offer, same price, same deal, and he was about to lose it. And it would have been better because it'd been an in-house sale, but for us anyway. But seller actually felt sorry for the buyer because he thought his agent was really stupid. And he's like, I don't think it's fair for the veteran to get screwed because this guy's an idiot. And we see this all the time. I have example after example of these kind of situations. But at the end of the day, you need to, even if you're a buyer or a seller, you need to hire somebody that's actually going to represent you. I had another seller recently tell me that when they bought the house that they're in, and this is why they didn't go back to their last agent, the agent went into the house, sat down on a chair, and let the buyers walk around and show themselves. And unfortunately, it's 1 month of school to be a real estate agent, and there is no job description. So you get crazy town, and the consumers care, right? They're thinking, don't you care that I'm going to spend about $500,000 or whatever the price is? You can't even be bothered to walk around and look at the house with me. I mean, it's just, And it's like, wait a minute. And now you want 3% commission for what? You opened a door and filled out a 10-minute form. So it's really important that you hire somebody that has your back. And I'm not seeing it. Anyway, that's kind of how it goes in real estate world for me. And it's fun to talk about it. Richard?
We're talking with Barb Schlinker, your home sold guaranteed realty. And I think it is the details like this one, Barb, that set you apart from other people. When it comes to selling a house in a competitive market, what are some of the other things, Barb, that home sellers should expect in a market situation like this?
Well, it's not the 2021 market, so you really have to price it right. We can help you do that. We do that with home sellers every single week, and those are the ones that win. The one that says, "Well, I want $1 million for my house when it's worth 500,000." At this point, I invest a lot of money in marketing. It's not a good deal for me because there it's going to end in failure if they overprice. But sometimes they don't believe me, and we have to test the market and see how it goes. But if you want to do this quickly and at the right price, call us. We're the right team. Just give us a call, 719-301-3900, or you can go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And remember, you can get in touch with Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to change real estate agents when the sale is not working in Colorado. Barb's got that answer. Stay tuned. All right.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to blindside you with that question.
No. It was my fault. You know what? I should just turn my phone off. I have it on in case there's an emergency. That's why I always leave it on. And somebody that should only be contacting me in an emergency sent me something. So I took a look at it, and it was, oh my God, I love this president. He's saying, hey, congrats, China. Our own Supreme Court just stiffed us and gave you a huge advantage in the world. And I'm like, you know what? There is not another president who would have just called it that way, saw through the bullshit, and just said, "There you are, folks. That's your Supreme Court." I love it. I love it. And you know what? He's not going to give up on this thing. I don't know what the next plan is.
I don't think so. I think they need to revisit that because people are coming over. They're coming in, 9 months pregnant, dropping a kid and going, "Oh, citizen, and now I have to stay here with the baby." I think they should just stop them at the border and go, "You're pregnant, you can't come in."
Well, and now I think it's even worse than it was before, because before there was like some little bit of uncertainty or something.
Right.
Now it's just like a big, all come in free kind of sign that they've held up. I think it gets worse from here. You're going to have all kinds of Chinese, Muslims and all, but you're going to have a freaking terrorist from, Iran comes into the country 9 months pregnant, has the kid. Yeah. Then you kick her out. Doesn't matter. Kid's still a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
All right. I'm ready for section 2 here.
Okay.
I'm good to go. Yeah. All right. Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, most home sellers have a great deal of love for their properties, and sometimes that translates into an unrealistic belief, resulting in mistakes either in agent selection, pricing, marketing, or all three of them. What should a home seller do if their house is not selling?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I think people decide on who they're going to let handle the sale, not based on performance necessarily. It might just be, well, I like that agent. They sold me the home. They're a nice person, but do they really know what they're doing? And I don't think enough sellers ask some tough questions like, how many homes have you sold in the last year? And I'll give you the stats right now. It's according to, these are MLS data stats. I'm not talking about, making up this stuff. Basically, the MLS says 81% of agents sell 3 or less homes per year. You can make more money working at McDonald's doing that, and I think a lot of them do have other jobs. I get calls all the time from agents that are have contracts on my listings from their jobs, restaurants, bars, dealerships, whatever. And I know that they have to do that to support their income. So it's just a part-time gig for them. Do you really want somebody that's in real estate part-time selling one of your largest assets and not knowing what's going on? Anyway, according to Zillow, 72% of agents sold 0 homes last year. It's pretty accurate. And there's more than 87% turnover in the real estate industry every 5 years, meaning every 5 years, a majority, almost 90%, are out and going to do something else because they can't make it in the industry or it's not enough income to support them. And that's just an education problem. I took the time, I invested in my education. I learned how to market. I learned from some of the best real estate agents in the country. And now we're in this group together and we share all the best ideas to help us help our clients and grow our business. But there's another issue, which is pricing. So pricing, it should be a collaborative decision between the seller and the agent based on good factual data. But what happens is some agents think that, oh, if I go tell the seller I can get him $1 million, they'll list with me and then nobody will show up. And then I'll beat them down on price later and go, oh, see, this other agent said it's not worth that much, right? And that kind of sets the stage for a very awkward relationship between the listing agent and the seller. I mean, most home sellers want the most money. Not all of them. Some people want speed. They want out of the trap for whatever reason. And the problem is you can't rely on those automated values like Zillow's estimates or Realtor.com's 3 different automated values or the ones that you get from your credit card statements. Those aren't accurate. Those are just, an average of homes around you, but they may not be real comparable sales. And what's interesting is I think the buyers are more educated than real estate agents about the price range and what they are searching for. They know every home that's hitting the market. They know where it's priced. They know where the best deals are. They can smell a deal a mile away, but the real estate agents many times can't see it. They can't, oh, well, they want this much. And the problem is it's not the agent that decides. It's not the seller that decides. It's the market. The buyers decide how much they're going to pay. So they can sense a good deal. I just wrote an offer last weekend on a property for one of our buyers. We had 4 competing offers. They made what was their best offer, but their offer did not get accepted. So what that agent did, they did the right thing. They set the stage by pricing it very realistically and getting multiple buyers in there to make offers. That meant that it definitely sold over asking price. But that's the right way to do it. If you price it high, they're going to pick it apart. It wasn't a perfect house. It had probably the most dramatic paint I've seen in a while. There's a turquoise wall and an orange wall and a yellow wall. And it wasn't really a true 4-bedroom. In fact, I really think it was only 2. But for some reason, because they priced it right, buyers, just forgave all sins. So that is the way to get all sins forgiven, is to price it right. That's it. I know because I list a lot of homes that have been repossessed, and those aren't that pretty most of the time. They have issues, and the buyers just jump on them with bidding wars because it's pricing. Promotion also is a factor. If your agent is not properly promoting the home, it's a problem. Now, everybody thinks that, oh, we just follow what everybody tells us to do and stick the home in the multiple listing service and let the buyers come and all that stuff. However, the multiple listing service is like the KGB. They won't let us market. They want us all to be the same. They won't let us say anything that benefits the house. Like, by the way, buyer, you could assume this 2.5% interest rate loan and save $500,000 on interest over the life of the loan. We can't say that. in our local MLS. We can't even say they're including a home warranty. That's how crazy they are. They've never been to marketing school. They don't know what they're doing, but I work around them. We find a way to deal with that. Another thing is when it is time to make a switch. Now, a lot of people think that they have to endure the entire term of their current agreement with their agent if it's not working, but that may not be true. There is a paragraph in the state form that basically says that if the agent is not performing to what they promised, either verbally or in writing, you have the right to terminate. And I've seen all kinds of shenanigans. We just sold a house where this agent, who was a broker of a rather large company, was fired. And what he demanded at that point is, oh, well, I want your new agent to pay me a quarter of the commission just because. And she's like, no, you didn't perform. You didn't present offers to me. He told her about an offer, but he never showed her an offer, and he did a lot of mistakes that were really a problem. So at the end of the day, they fired him, they hired me, and he claims, okay, well, I won't charge your new agent money because I went to church and prayed about it. Is that weird, Richard? I mean,
I am always surprised at how many people pray about things and
it's okay
rely
to pray.
100% on that. I mean, I believe in God. I believe in the power of prayer, but I think God, the analogy I use, Barb, is so you're in the ocean, a huge storm comes up, and you're praying to God for deliverance. And He would say, you know what? The praying thing is good, but you ought to keep rowing for shore. I expect you to kind
Right.
of do both.
Yeah, and it's a contract. Okay. Every time I've been in courtrooms, which I try to avoid that like the plague, they're very focused on what's the word, what was in writing. Is that true, Richard? I mean, you went to law school, you've been in more courtrooms than I have.
No, I think that's absolutely true.
And the contract doesn't say that if the seller fires you, you have to get money from the new agent. It doesn't say that. I don't know where that came from, but it's people try to, some agents try to leverage things that don't exist. So anyway, so what are the issues? Typically things like no communication. It's not selling. It's not marketed. They're not reacting to what the seller is asking them to do. I actually had one very recently. It was a buyer agent that brought a contract on my listing, and he literally abandoned his own buyer. In fact, we had a contract. We didn't reach agreement on inspection. The contract says if you don't by this deadline, deal's off, right? So a deal was off. I put it back on the market. We tried to get the buyer back in. He kept ghosting me. And then finally, like 2 weeks later, he's like, well, we want this repair and that repair. I said, okay, well, first we're going to have to go back in contract again. We're not in contract. And he goes, what do you mean we're not in contract? And I'm like, dude, you don't know we're not in contract? I mean, it's astounding to me that they don't know. Some of these agents don't know basics. I was so mad that he said that to me on text. I said, look, you need to ask your broker. I'm not your broker. Don't ask me about how this hard stop deadline it puts you out of contract. And then it got worse. So here we are 2 months after it blew up. Still to this day, he hasn't asked for the buyer's earnest money back, which was legit to do that. So finally, we just got another buyer. We just sent it to him here. Get the earnest money back because I feel sorry for the buyer. It's really abandoned. But what most agents do when they list is they do what I call post and hope. They hope somebody else has a buyer. And it doesn't work that way. I mean, you have to attract. That's what marketing is all about. In this sea of marketing that we see every day on our phones and on our computers and driving down the street, how do you stand out in the sea of thousands of houses on the market is what we're trying to solve. And we do it. And it works for us. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900. My name is Barb Schlinker. I am the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice, and the broker and owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb has a buyer's team. So we're talking about how do you change agents when the sale isn't working? And exactly how is what we're going to talk about after the break. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you are thinking of making a move, simply call Barb at 719 301 3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. So, Barb, if a home seller has to make a real estate agent switch, what are reasons and ways to change real estate agents?
Well, I mean, you have to pay close attention because what a lot of people don't know is the standard contract, which a licensed agent is forced to use in this state. It doesn't promise the consumers anything except I'll do my due diligence and I'll present all written offers and I'll disclose any broken things. But there's nothing about marketing. There's nothing about pricing realistically. There's nothing about communicating. It's pretty bad. It's really bad. It offers almost nothing. So if you do sign an agreement, you need an agent that actually makes promises. Are they communicating with you? Are they telling you how they're going to do marketing? Are they sharing that with you? Are they giving you feedback on what's the showing? All that stuff. Are they promising that or not? Many of the sellers will tell me the other agents that I talked to didn't show them any of this stuff that we show them. And they just said, oh, your house is worth that much. Sign here. And they expect a 6-month plus commitment of making a lot of money and doing maybe hopefully taking professional photos, not always. And then, trying to make all this money and they're just hoping some other agent has a buyer. To me, that is not a solution. It doesn't work. So the seller has a right to cancel if they've been abandoned, if they haven't been communicated with, or if the agent does not perform their written oral agreements. So what are those? Be clear about those. I had one seller a few years ago that was very uncomfortable about firing their agent. And I said, well, was there anything he promised you that he didn't do? He goes, yeah, we asked him to update the pictures. The pictures were awful, which was true. He used his smartphone for a beautiful home. Everybody was passing that home by and he overpriced it. So both of those meant nobody was looking at the house. And so he asked him to update the photos. The seller even spent thousands of dollars and had professional staging furniture put in this vacant home to get it sold. But because the photos were still so bad and he didn't update it, it didn't sell. So he asked him to do it. He didn't do it. Boom, he got fired. Sorry. And we sold it, by the way, in 9 days. So that's just one example. It's not something people like to do. They have to break the bad news to their current agent. But just be tactful and honest, and they should release you if they have not performed according to what you expect. Anyway, if you have any questions about it, give me a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, you can call Barb at 719 301 3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be discussing what are the typical costs of selling a home. Barb has that for you as soon as we come back. And no, it does not include ordering pizza for the people to have a little pizza party in your home. That's not
Our
acceptable.
investor party is the latest one. I'll be right back.
Yep.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, well,
Good to see
I
you.
didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. We're
Yeah.
recording the show.
Cool. Just need the other key and I'll get started.
Okay.
Fantastic.
It might be, okay, here's one. Here's two of them.
Awesome.
And
Yeah,
there
I
might
got
be
you
one
the
in the van too.
two remote heads and
Oh, look at you.
yeah.
Nice.
So
Okay.
they're OEM original for that. And Braun said that he has your info when he did this one. So it's the same cost, $225 per key. And then
Awesome. Perfect.
so I'll be back
Good
up
to
in
see
just a
you.
bit. Okay, great. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
All right. We keep losing keys for the moving vans I let people use. I don't know where they go. Nobody's going to steal it.
Or they're going to use it to transport people or drugs from across the border. Barb Schlinker, she is
Barb is a Barb.
international now, not just in Colorado or Kansas or Texas. Yes, she goes into Guadalajara. I can't even name any of the places in Mexico.
I've had two, I think two, no, maybe one. I don't know. I had catalytic converter stolen. That was expensive. But this muffler shop up the street, they were so cool. So what they did was they welded all these bars underneath it so nobody can get to that now. And then 2 tanks broken into. They drill a hole in the tank to get gas.
I guess I just there is so much that goes on out there that doesn't get reported very much because I mean I knew that they steal catalytic converters, and there have been some great videos where there was one a couple of years ago where a guy goes out and there are 2 people under his car trying to steal the catalytic converter, and he goes out there and basically it's like, can I help you guys, or and it's pretty comical. But David just said $6,000 for a catalytic converter. Oh my God, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah,
that and
Ford is very vulnerable.
They'll steal copper anywhere they can. If we'll rip it out of street lights, or I don't know. It would seem to me pretty simple that all you have to do is make it so that all of these companies can't just buy copper that way. Or that there's somebody comes in with a whole bunch
some kind of metal like palladium or something that's more valuable than gold even.
Really?
It's very expensive stuff.
We're in the wrong business, and David, look into that and see if maybe we can have a criminal syndicate with Barb. She provides the van, and you and I do the muscle.
I get busted.
Well, yeah, but you have your husband, Mark's got a fast car, so he's always ready there. You jump in the car and it's Bonnie and Clyde time, and State Patrol couldn't keep up with him. All right. We'll get the supercharger on it. Yeah.
So
I will say, you know what? I will say that if you would have told me, like, I don't know. I don't even know when they came out, but 10 years ago or so, that they were going to bring back Chargers and Mustangs and Camaros, and that they were going to have them look kind of retro, but great performance and stuff. I'm like, are you sure? Well, it turns out that's the truth.
Yeah.
All right. I got number 3. I'm good to go.
Okay.
Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner-broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, when people are considering selling a home, how do they find out what the costs are for selling a house? And more importantly, how much will they keep when they sell it?
Well, a lot of people aren't really familiar with the typical closing cost. I think they know there's a commission. Many of my sellers are kind of surprised if they have an HOA, they have to pay an HOA transfer fee, or when the buyer asks for the seller to pay their loan closing cost. And now more and more often when the buyer's asking for the seller to pay their buyer agent fees. We're getting pushback on that on the seller side quite a bit. But there are some other costs that you may not know about, which include getting the house ready for sale. I just sold a home recently where we started early. He wanted me to help him prepare, and he hadn't done a lot of detail maintenance on the home for a while. So we did the pre-inspection, and at the end of the day, he made it absolutely perfect. He said he spent about $30,000 just getting the home in good condition. Yet on the other side of that if you go under contract and then you let the buyer do the inspection, the buyer, I've had deals fall out on the same property multiple times. New buyer gets a new inspection and they ask for completely new stuff. I had one where the buyer was asking for concrete, where the concrete looked really fine. It was just, a 30-year-old home is going to have cracks, of course, here and there, but nothing major, nothing structural. So you never know what their hot button is. And that's the time when it's no fun for sellers, because it's like, I accepted a contract. I agreed to pay some of your closing costs. And now you want what? You want this, you want that, and that's going to cost me. Sewer lines are a big frustration for home sellers, because if the sewer line works and there's no backup, most people don't check it. I had one recently where when you check the sewer line, there was a little fracture. It was probably built that way in the actual pipe and nobody ever checked it. And the problem is it's going to be probably $10,000 to fix it. And oh, by the way, also you got to remove a giant blue spruce above the line in order to get the work done, right? So that changes the look and feel of the house. I mean, those are the kind of things that sellers don't like finding out about, especially when they think their home is soon to be sold, they're under contract, things are going well, and then, oh, we need that. And then if the buyer is not satisfied with your approach to what is going to be fixed, they can walk away. Buyers can walk away if they don't like the paint color. It's ridiculous. So there's a lot of typical selling expenses that we see: commission, settling up property taxes, title insurance, buyer related fees, which absolutely are negotiable, including the commission. And but there's some other costs like getting the house ready for sale or unexpected repairs. And sometimes you just don't know what those are. I had one where they had this really weird plumbing problem. It was like a leak in the unfinished basement in the pipe near the concrete. It's just bizarre. So it's always a good idea, if you have time, to talk to us. We usually recommend that you do what's we call a pre-certified pre-owned home. They do that for cars. If you go buy a used car, they'll advertise it's pre-certified, pre-inspected, ready to go, which sounds good. And that sounds good for buyers as well, because buyers are super picky now. They want everything they can get. I mean, and some of them have somewhat unrealistic expectations about what they're going to get, right? They want upgrades, they want this and that. So it really depends on what the buyer agent is doing to manage expectations. I had a contract a couple years back where, I don't know why, but this agent went and got a bid to replace the roof, and the roof had a solar panel on it. So those are very expensive, because you not only have to replace the shingles, but you have to pull the solar off, and then you have to put it back on. So it almost doubles the cost. But she got a pretty good price. She goes, see, don't I have a good price to replace the roof? The roof needs to be replaced. So the seller explored it, and turned out, they filed a claim, and the insurance company came out and said, there's nothing wrong with the roof. We don't need to replace the roof. The problem is that hurts your insurance rates right then and right there, right? Because you filed a claim. It doesn't matter if you go through with the claim, they keep a record on that, and it does affect your rates down the road. So we confirmed it with another roofer, and he's like, yeah, the roof's fine. It doesn't need to be replaced. But the buyer walked away because the agent managed expectations to make the buyer think that they needed a roof and they weren't going to get a new roof, right? So we see that kind of stuff happen all the time, because agents, buyers agents in particular, think that getting stuff from my buyers is their job. It's not their job. It's getting them the house. It's okay to ask for broken stuff, but reasonable buyers are like, oh, I'm not too worried about that. I can fix that. Or it's not a deal breaker. It might just be routine maintenance. It's also critical that you price it right. I will tell you, if your home is priced what I call very, very, very realistically, and the buyer gets a contract on it, especially if you have a bidding war all sins are forgiven as far as the condition of the house. A lot of times they will let things slide. And that pricing is so important. If you price too high, it's going to sit on the market. The buyers are going to see the days on market. According to the national statistics, if you price high and slowly walk the price down, you're going to net less money. It's more of an instant society. I mean, have you noticed that, Richard? Like everybody wants everything yesterday.
Absolutely. It is instant gratification. And people used to complain that it was only young people who did that. I honestly see
No,
that every age group and every category is pretty much the same thing. We've been conditioned to do it. You want something,
right.
order it from Amazon, it'll be here tomorrow.
Exactly. That's true. I mean, I ordered a wallet on Amazon like 10:30 at night, not thinking much of it. It was on my doorstep at 8 in the morning. I was like, wow, how did that happen? So yeah, it doesn't necessarily work that way with home sales, but it can happen very quickly if you price it right. And you cannot rely on those automated valuations like the Zillow's estimate or realtor.com's multiple automation valuation models, because you don't know what they're based on. And they're not buying your house. That's the problem. It's the buyers. And you can tell the moment it goes on the market because the buyers start calling, they want to get in, they ask questions. Agents are calling, well, I'm ready to show it. I want more information. Tell me about that house, that kind of thing. I just had one where we had it under contract. The buyer walked away. It was a condo problem. So seller made a huge price adjustment and the phone just blew up. And people are asking me, well, why did you do that? And I said, I can tell you why the last one blew up, but I'm not sure it's accurate. And, it went right under contract with multiple offers right away. So pricing really does overcome everything. And if you have minor work that needs to be done, as long as you price it right, it will sell. I sell homes all the time. Some of them are a disaster. I just put one under contract today that literally has visible mold in the whole lower level. I mean, it's a mess. It's going to be a rehab project, but that one had a bidding war and sold for over asking price because it was priced right. Other costs that you have to consider are your mortgage balance. Obviously, you got to pay off your mortgage, right? But in general, if you want to do the math quickly in your head, you got to plan on 8 to 10% of the sales price to get it sold, right? And that would include commission, taxes, title, buyer closing cost, all the crazy things that happen, and paying off your mortgage. So that's the quick math to figure it out. But I've seen big requests for buyers asking for big dollar amounts in closing cost. And you can play that game. There's nothing that says this. It has to be a seller expense, though. You can go up in price to cover that as long as you could substantiate that other similar homes have sold for that much. If you need an appraisal, if you need a third party giving an opinion of value on that transaction, it's not necessary for cash deals, but it is for finance deals. So you can let the buyer finance the cost of their closing cost into their loan and not be out of pocket for the seller. So if you're thinking of making a move, we do this all the time for sellers. We'll sit down, we'll give them tips on what to do, what not to do to get their house ready for sale. Give them a really good idea what their home will sell for, and more importantly, how much they'll put in their pocket when it sells. Just call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Remember, you can listen to replays of the show anytime on all of the major podcast platforms, plus Barb's website, barbhasthebuyers.com. Look for Barb Schlinker online. You'll find her almost anywhere. And if you're thinking of making the move, simply call the number 719-301-3900. Barb, what if a home seller does not have enough money and equity to pay all of those closing costs?
Well, I mean, there are some solutions in general, but it's a tough situation. And I think since the Fed raised the rates the middle of 2022, the people that bought during the peak, especially if they didn't put a down payment down, they got a problem. And so you could rent it, you could keep it and rent it and wait and hope and pray for the market to go up. You can sell it as a short sale, meaning you're asking the seller, the lender, to accept less for the payoff of their mortgage. And for veterans, you don't have to miss a payment to do that. You don't have to drop a bomb on your credit. Especially if you're active duty. I see way too many foreclosures. If you are a veteran, and you have a decent interest rate, a VA assumption is a way to get top dollar without a doubt, because if you got a low rate, the buyers are like, that's awesome, I can walk right into a low payment. But at the end of the day, it's all about pricing. So we have solutions, and to call us, just give us a call. We can help you figure those things out. You can sell it for a loss. I've had people do that. I had one a couple of years ago that I said, you're probably going to only net, well, you have to bring some money to closing. But for them, they were like, it's fine, we can do that. We're happy to pay to get rid of the problem, get out of the trap. It's the worst case to let it go to foreclosure. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what to do. I see a majority of the people facing foreclosure just literally move out, stick their head in the sand, or do nothing. And that's not the best scenario for them. There are other options to solve the problem. And what's going on right now, it's almost like history repeats itself. Back between 2007 and 2011, a lot of the banks are saying, oh, don't worry, we'll modify your loan. All you have to do is make a higher payment every month to catch up on the difference. Let me apply, but don't make your payment right now. Don't worry about it. Don't make your payment. And then all of a sudden, if you miss one payment, boom, they filed for foreclosure. So don't trust the banks. Don't be led into their statements that they make. I have one client that told me that her bank, a big major bank, told her because she has equity in her home, she doesn't have to make payments. I'm like, what? Somebody said that to you? Or maybe she just heard what she wanted to hear. I don't know. But at the end of the day, you want to get a trusted advisor to help you out of the problem. We help people with this all the time. We have lots of folks that have that issue. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com, and we'd be happy to help you. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker on Your Real Estate Voice. She should be your voice. And if you're thinking of selling your home and want to have Barb get you the most amount of money, the number is 719-301-3900 or barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to price a home to sell in this market. Plus, Barb's hot new listings. Don't miss that. Don't miss that. Don't miss them.
I had to cut off some of those slides because I'm like, oh, I'm talking too much.
You know what? It just dawned on me. Of everybody I know, you are the longest talker that I know, and I'm a long talker as well. When you put the two of us together, it's a lot of long talking. A whole lot of editing for me, right? But I'd rather have that because I can cut stuff out. All right. So, let me do this here.
Hey, DJ, you stepped out of the room on the first segment and we redid some stuff. We kept the tape rolling, so you might want to listen to that one, especially when I was talking about the guy that's got a PhD in DUMB. Is he there? He's not. Nobody's listening. Is DJ out of the room, Richard? Oh, it's 1 o'clock.
Okay. Yep. I do. All right. I'm good, Barb. Oh,
Okay. All right. Is DJ back?
yes.
Hey, DJ, you might want to listen carefully to segment 1 because we redid the part that I was making fun of that real estate agent. You might like better.
Okay.
There's 2 versions that are recorded. So
Well,
I asked Richard a question. He stepped away, and I'm like,
Yep.
Richard.
Yeah, I marked that down.
Okay.
I'll consolidate it.
No, there's a Murphy's Law. What happened was I leave my phone here in case there's emergency, right? And there's hardly ever an emergency. I don't know. I guess my wife and my mother-in-law. And it pops up, and I'm like, okay, what's the emergency? I looked at it, and what somebody was sending me, my wife was sending me, was President Trump saying, hey, congratulations, China. The United States Supreme Court just said you can have your citizens come drop a baby over here. Even if you come in illegally, they'll be a U.S. citizen. And it was just so funny and snarky that I got sidetracked with that.
No, I don't mind. It's just that I retold the story.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely.
And I think that I kind of thought the second version was a little better.
I did too. I thought the second one was better.
More to the point.
Yeah.
I thought.
Which is not something we, try to do very often, or at least me. All right. I'm good to go. I'll count us down.
All right.
In 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker. She's the owner-broker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, a lot of people look at those automated valuations like on Zillow or their neighbor's asking price to try to determine the value of their home, especially now that it's taking longer to sell a home. How does a home seller decide what price to set when they're getting ready for selling their home?
Well, Richard, a lot of people don't know the answer to that question. A lot of times I'll ask them, what do you think it's worth? And usually the answer I get is, well, Zillow says it's worth X, or my neighbor sold for this amount, or I want this much, right? Or I had one that came back and said, no, my financial advisor said I should sell it for this much. I'm like, really? And how many houses did he sell? Anyway, at the end of the day, it's the market that decides what the home will sell for. Most sellers want the most money. I get it, but there's a lot of factors that go into it. And I found that even if their home is what I call the pretty category, like beautiful, completely updated, top notch, if you price that home realistically, you'll get a dog pile of buyers, multiple offers. And that actually leads to the most money, more so than pricing high and then walking the price down. But the traditional thought process is, oh, well, let's try this number. And if we don't get it, then we'll lower the price. Well, the problem is all of these tech companies, Zillow has over 70% of the buyer traffic on their website. And they are showing right there on that page every price change that you made, right? They know the history on it. And it puts this perception out there. If you lower the price that, oh, there's something wrong. Oh, maybe the seller is motivated. Oh, maybe I could wait a little longer and get even less money for the house if they like it. So we see that thought process going on with buyers, but just the opposite takes place. If the home is priced just slightly below, it doesn't take a lot, just slightly below market, and all the buyers think it's a great deal, they all come in with their best offer. And that, for me, is the funnest situation working with a home seller. Because if you price it too high, you get very few showings, very few requests, and you're actually helping your neighbors sell their home. You're not helping sell your home. But some people, of course, they try to squeeze as much money as they can out of their house. I get that. But the opposite strategy that I just mentioned actually usually works the best, because it's the buyer side who's going to buy it. I had one recently where the home, if it had been updated, if it had been, meaning improved in the 1990s, so they didn't update the carpet, the windows were old, the screens were tired. I think the only thing that was updated were the appliances, but everything else, and the roof. So they did some basics, but they didn't go in and put counters and do all the Corinthian leather that the builders do. But the home's in good location. So had it been updated, it probably would have been worth over 500,000, but it was not. And so the seller chose to price it realistically because he wanted to sell it quickly, right? And I said, all right, let's try 435. Huge crowd at the open house, multiple offers, sold for 450, pretty much as is. I mean, that's the way to get it done. Otherwise, you're going to sit on the market and slowly walk the price down till you finally reach a price which will work for buyers. However, you're probably going to net less than you would have had you gone out of the gate in the first place at the right price. So buyers are looking at everything that's going on around them. They can see the nearby competition. They can see what similar homes look like and whether or not they're going off the market. And buyers are making a decision whether or not they're going to leave their fuzzy bunny slippers to go look at your home based on that online presentation. So that very first showing that you're going to get is going to be online. That's where everybody's looking and deciding, okay, am I going to waste my gas money and go see it? I've actually had buyers call me and complain that these were other agents' buyers calling me to complain that when they got to the house, it wasn't what they expected, even though I had it in the MLS, which the agent did not read. And they were mad at me because they spent their gas money to go look at my listing, and they were their client, not mine. So there's this expectation out there is what you get. And that's not always the case. But if you want multiple offers, like I had this one that sold in January that was nice home, tri-level. They did basics on updating, fresh paint, fresh carpet. Usually that's enough for buyers to move in, drop their stuff and get on with their life. Good neighborhood, but not really fancy. It still had Formica counters. It had wide appliances, not really super fancy, right? And I asked the seller, what is your strategy? Do you want to sell fast, or do you want to wait? At the days on market was over 100 days. Do you want to wait 100 days to get? I said, all right, well, I think your home will sell for $425, but I think you should price it at $399. That one we had a open house and it sold for $426. So, and we actually had a higher offer at $440. Buyer wasn't as strong. So when you price it right, the benefit of doing that is that you actually get a multitude of offers and the best buyer for your home. In this case, the best buyer was willing to pay $426 and close, like finish cash in his checking account in just 10 days. That's very attractive to the typical buyer. I had another one do a similar scenario in Rock Rimmon last year. And, it's probably worth $7, obviously offers at 700,000, but we priced at 650. And he didn't want to pay 3% commission. He's like, Barb, in my mind, do anything. You did all the work. So I only want to pay 2%. I said, okay. So we countered the first one that asked for 3%. And the agent, and this is a cash buyer that had plenty of money. The agent insisted on the seller paying him 3%. So guess what? That buyer did not get the house, and he ended up getting fired. And another buyer got the house that was fine with that. It's not a short-term process, right? You want your clients to love you, refer you. Repeat referral business is really critical. And you'll be able to tell if you priced it right really quickly based on the activity that you're getting. If you're getting more than 4 showings in a week, that's a good sign. It's going to go, okay? But if you're doing that and not getting offers, you're a little bit off. If you're getting very few showings, you're 3%, 5%, maybe 6%. but usually there is a price where the buyers will show up and make offers. It's pricing that sparks offers more than anything else. And I know that because I had these homes that are very cosmetically challenged that I've been selling, that I'm thinking I wouldn't buy this house, but I had this old broker that had this saying that was so cute. He said, there's a puppy for every doghouse. And so what the buyers are doing is if they could finance the rehab of that home into their loan and get a lower price, they are jumping on it and they're paying full market value. And you can tell by the number of views and saves and shares on Zillow. If you look at Zillow, our results are much higher because of the way we market. But the buyers do notice days on market. So if it's sitting on the market for a long time, they are automatically thinking there's something wrong. And I don't know what defines a long time. I know the average right now is 90 days. However, if you're not selling in the first couple of weeks, you're off on the price. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. I'm also having a lot of fun. I enjoy doing this. I'm glad this show is airing on the 4th of July. What a happy day for us. The country's 250th birthday, and pretty awesome thing that we have going here. Richard?
I have to echo that. What a great, great day. 250 years. And I still see a number of good years ahead. And for people who are buying and selling homes as well as you're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And you can listen to replays of the show anytime on all of the major podcast platforms and Barb's YouTube channel as well. If you're thinking of making the move, call Barb 719-301-3900. Barb, what are some of the other magic bullets on pricing your home to get that top dollar?
Well, you have to price it, I think, below similar sales to get top dollar. That's always worked for me. I don't care what's going on in the market right now. I don't care what the interest rates are. Even during the meltdown when, people were asking premium prices for homes, yet there were the homes that were discounted were just selling like hotcakes. So it's all about pricing. And when you have multiple offers, you're actually going to get more money because you are attracting a number of offers and you're able to pick the best buyer for your home. I had one seller ask me that question recently, and it was an inherited home. It was absolutely a 80s time warp. It had the pink mauve carpet and the kitchen was not updated. And the nearby neighborhood was full of homes that, newer custom homes with all the bells and whistles. And so they asked me, should they update the kitchen? I said, white appliances, tile counters, kind of funky kitchen. I said, no, you're not going to get the money doing that. You got to price it right. There's a big home in 5 acres. They priced it probably about 5% below similar sales. So they asked $899 for that home. We had over 80 people at the 1 hour open house. We ended up getting, I think, 6 offers, and it sold for $75,000 over asking price. So that was market value. That basically, when you get a lot of people in and a lot of people making offers, they are the ones that set the real market value. And the seller was very happy. And all they did was just some minor cosmetics. They took care of the mauve carpet. They freshened the floors. Even the sinks, the bathroom sinks were seashell shaped and pink. And they had those painted with the polyurethane. It looked amazing and it sold fast. So you can tell if it's the wrong price based on buyer resistance. And it's a big mistake because you'll end up netting less money. But if it's priced right, it's going to go very quickly in this market. It is still a desirable market, believe it or not, but you have to approach it with the goal to sell. Nothing more frustrating than having showing after showing, or having deals fall apart, or having to slowly walk the price down. That's just, not the best scenario. Speed's definitely a factor in this world because everybody expects things instantly. Richard?
Barb, you've got some hot new listings today. Why don't you tell us about them? Go through them one by one.
Yeah, well, I've got beautiful home up in Jackson Creek and Briargate with spectacular views, almost 4,000 square feet, walkout basement, 3-car garage, priced at $699. Another great home in the low threes on Kasdan Circle. It's actually been completely remodeled and in good shape. A spectacular home that actually is lakefront up in Highland Lakes in Divide, priced at $699. Beautiful home out on Jorba Grove. This is out in Peyton. This one's on 35 acres with a massive barn, a couple of other outbuildings, a 4-car detached garage. This home's at $639. We have 2 homes up in Crystal Park, one on Eagle Mountain. Now that's one of those deals where they're offering the VA assumable loan at a whopping 2.5%. It's amazing. Might as well price that home at 250,000 because that's how much of a bonus you're getting when you buy a house like that. It's such a gift to the buyer. We have another great home in Pueblo on Buffalo Lane, actually a VA repo in the low twos. Fabulous home down in Pueblo on 62 acres, walkout basement, 4-car garage, priced at just $599. We have a beautiful home out in Peyton on Cascading Springs in the mid fours. Another fabulous downtown townhome at Fountain Avenue in the low fives. Great home down in the 80908 zip code, almost new home on Moose Jaw in the low sixes. Another Crystal Park home just lowered the price to $790, has solar and spectacular views. Great home down by Circle and Fillmore at on Mead Avenue in the low threes. Beautiful home in Woodland Park, couple homes in Woodland Park, one on Bridal at $697, and a townhome that's over 2,500 square feet at $375 in Woodland Park. One on Balsam Street. This is a Gardener's Delight at $499. Another Pueblo home at $369, and a great home on 5 acres on Warriors Path. And then we also have a fabulous hobby farm on 80 acres on Judge Orr Road at 1.4 million. This one has beautiful custom home plus a detached auxiliary dwelling unit and multiple barns. You can house 11 cars, lots of critters. It's really cool. Another home on County Road 421 on 35 acres with a detached apartment and huge RV garage. And then new to the market, 38801 Private Road 17, also on 40 acres with a big RV garage and a barn and all this space. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com.
That'll do it for this week, Barb. Gosh dang it, hang on. That'll do it for this week, Barb. I want to say happy birthday and God bless the USA. God bless you, Barb Schlinker.
You too. Have a great weekend.
You doing anything?
I went long. Okay.
Well, that's shocking. I'll tell you, if I were a little bit shorter when you ask me something, instead of me just going on and on and on, if I just kept it a little bit shorter, I would keep you from running long, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I don't feel like we run out of time in our hour because I don't really have a lot of commercials running. So
I got